Chapter 268. Early in the morning, the whole hidden dragon ancient city was boiling. Looking down from the sky, one could see countless streams of people moving towards the battling field in the central area. Right then, there was still some time before the battle began. Yichen, just try your best. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. In the yard, everyone from the Sky Cloud Martial School had already finished washing up. Luo Xinglia said to Yichen. Yichen nodded. Leader, don't worry. What should be mine will be mine. Since he had joined the hidden dragon rank competitions, Yichen's goal was to be the champion. It was very simple. Alright, let's go. On the battling field, everyone's eyes were all on the top 10 seeded contestants. The rest of the young generation had become the background. The 13 judges are indeed very good. The top 10 seeded contestants had not lost a single time in the previous 62 battles. There is no doubt that they will be in the top 10 this year. I thought Qian Yun would have the chance to be in the top 10. Who knew that he had not only lost to the top young warriors, but also to Gu Yuyan, Yi Chun, Tuobaku, and Morong Qingcheng. He would not be able to be in the top 10 at all. It is the first time that a disciple from the Sunset Martial School has not been in the top 10. What else can we do? This year's young generation is just too shocking. Qian Yun's power is a bit weak after all. He is not as powerful as the head disciple of the Sunset Martial School. While everyone was discussing, the first beam of sunlight shone over from the east and landed on the battling platform. The head judge stood up. The 63rd round of the battles begins now. The first battle was not a battle between top young warriors. It was the third knight from the Moon Pavilion and Wei Renjia. The third knight was tall and skinny, with a normal appearance. He looked to be around 22 or 23 years old, and his power was much higher than the fourth knight. After dozens of rounds, the third knight had barely won against Wei Renjia. The second battle was also not a battle between top young warriors, which made everyone a bit disappointed. It was not until the sixth battle that two top young warriors got on the stage. They were Tuobaku and Gu Yuyan. Tuobaku's background was mysterious, and no one knew where he came from. In all of the previous battles, his defense was very famous. Even the head disciple of the Sky Demon Martial School, Mo Yen, could not break through his defense. Towards the end, Mo Yen had made up his mind and tried to take out Tuobaku's eyes. Unfortunately, he had still lost to Tuobaku, which made the audience have a new understanding of Tuobaku's defense. As the descendant of the Stone King, Gu Yian was not as bright as Xikong Sheng, and her talent was not that amazing either. However, the Stone King's bloodline had brought her a huge potential, which allowed her to catch up and become one of the top young warriors. With her Stone King body protective fist art, she had beaten Qian Yun, who was a threat to her, and made it into the top 10. The battle between the two had aroused countless people's interest. Everyone wanted to know which one was more powerful, Tuobaku's defensive martial art, or Gu Yuyan's Stone King body protective fist art. Please enlighten me. Gu Yuyan was still polite as she clasped her fists. Tuobaku laughed. Why would there be so many rules in a martial competition? But your power is not bad, and so is your Stone King body protective fist art. Take one of my fist attacks first. Without performing his savage godly fist art, Tuobaku threw out a brutal fist attack with only his own power and Jin Qi. The fist power was like a mountain. Boom! Gu Yian threw back a fist attack. The two were evenly matched. Alright. Now, I would like to try your ace attack, and see how powerful the Stone King's anger is. Tuobaku jumped into the air, and threw out his Ruin 18 fist attacks. Boom! 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 The Ruin 18 fist attacks were one of the ace attacks of the Ruin Godly Fist art. Each movement did not carry any fancy tricks. It was all about brutal power and overwhelming aura. There were only two ways to break the Ruin 18 fist attacks. One would be to use an even more powerful power to shatter Tuobaku's fist aura, and the other would be to use an extreme technique to break it. Both of them were extremely difficult. Tuobaku's fist art was already powerful and heavy, and it would be impossible for Gu Yian to surpass him in this aspect with her current power. But the extreme technique would be even more difficult, since once the power reached a certain level, the warrior would have the power to beat everything. Under such circumstances, The technique would have to reach another level in order to be able to break the Ruin 18 fist attacks. Obviously, Gu Yuyan had not reached the requirement in both areas. Therefore, she had to perform the Stone King's exclusive martial art, the Stone King Body Protective Fist Art, in order to strengthen her protective Jinshi. Tuobaku's fist aura was getting more and more powerful, more and more brutal. Xianyun's Thunder 4 movement and Sunset 5 movement were like a kid holding a wooden hammer in front of him. So powerful. In Gu Yuyan's eyes, Tuobaku was like a mountain, a wild mountain that was rushing towards her at a high speed. Not to mention fighting back, she could barely even defend. Her chi and blood had been shaken by the fist aura, and her Jinshi was boiling, almost exploding out of her body. The 16th punch. Tuobaku threw out a punch. The air was torn apart, bringing up a series of booming sounds. Crack. Her protective Jinshi layer was about to shatter. Gu Yuyan bit on her lower lip, trying her best to defend. She thought to herself, just a little bit more, just a little bit more. The more pressure I get, the more powerful the Stone King anger will be. The 17th punch. A dragon roar and tiger roar was heard. Tuobaku's punch seemed to have brought Gu Yuyan back to the ancient times, where danger was lurking everywhere. Boom! Gu Yuyan's protective Jinshi layer had finally been shattered. However, by then, her fist aura had already accumulated to its limit. The Stone King anger took the opportunity to explode. It had not only shattered Tuobaku's fist power and aura, but had also been thrown back along with the Stone King anger. Facing this horrifying punch, Tuobaku's protective Jinshi layer had been shattered, and his body had been blown away. Testing the attack with his own body, this Tuobaku's defense is indeed powerful. Yichen was extremely observant. Although the power of Tuobaku's Savage 18 fist art had not been reduced by much, its speed had obviously been reduced. Plus, the power of the 17th punch and the 16th punch were almost the same. He must have saved some of his power. Otherwise, Gu Yuyan would have been defeated by the 17th punch, and there would be no chance for her to perform the Stone King anger. Tuobaku had done this because he wanted to see how powerful the Stone King anger was. Lynch was surprised. You mean Tuobaku did it on purpose? He was extremely talented in blade arts, but he was slightly weaker in other areas. Before Yichen could answer, Su Jing said, "It is not entirely on purpose. Gu Yuyan's protective Jinshi layer and the Stone King anger are indeed very powerful." Tuobaku did not underestimate her. When he performed the 17th punch, he had already prepared to defend, using all of his power to block out the power of the Stone King anger. Stepping on the dark blue light wall, Tuobaku flipped his body and landed on the ground. He looked down at his chest, where his clothes had already been torn apart, and there was a light fist mark on his muscles. It was black and blue. He could not help but praise. Impressive. Luckily, I had prepared my defense beforehand. Seeing that the Stone King anger could not do anything to Tuobaku, Gu Yuyan let out a sigh of relief and said, "You win." Tuobaku chuckled as the dragon-shaped shadow outside his body jumped towards Gu Yuyan. After devouring a part of the dragon fountain chi, it had grown to 26 meters, which was even bigger than Yi Chen. The two got off the stage, and the 7th battle began immediately. The 11th battle, Morong Qingqing against Bing Ling. Just as the head judge finished his sentence, a huge commotion came from the audience seating. Among the top 10 seated contestants, there were only 3 young girls, Morong Qingqing, Bing Ling and Gu Yuyan. Gu Yuyan's temperament and appearance were not as good as the other two, so naturally, her popularity was not as high as theirs. Morong Qingqing was one of the top 2 beauties of the Black Dragon Empire. Although she was wearing a light veil that covered half of her face, only the shape of her face was enough to shake people's hearts. Combined with her mysterious and noble temperament, she had won over countless young warriors. Bing Ling's temperament was completely different from Morong Qingqing. The former was mysterious, while the latter was cold. Her delicate facial features and cold aura combined together, making her look like a snow lotus that grew in an ice mountain, cold and elegant. Both of them had reached the top young warriors level, and their appearances were also extremely beautiful. Once they got onto the stage, they had caused a huge commotion. Bing Ling is one of the top young warriors from the older generation. Morong Qingqing is not really a rising star, but she has also just started to rise this year. I wonder who will be more powerful. It does not matter who wins or loses. Among the young generation of girls in the South Ridra region, they are the top two. If I could get their attention, I would be willing to lose 10 years of my life. If you are willing, why would they not be willing? But you are right. Morong Qingqing and Bing Ling could be considered as the top two martial geniuses in the South Ridra region. In the recent generation of the true spirit continent, I think they are only second to Xianhou. Xianhou is not someone that a country or a region could compare with. She is not only the #1 martial genius in the past 1,000 years, but also the #1 beauty of the true spirit continent. Compared to her, there would be a huge gap. Even martial geniuses like Xikong Sheng would be beaten by her. No one would be able to call themselves the #1. The #1 martial genius in 1,000 years. She would not be inferior even in the ancient era. Xianhou had indeed made all the other martial geniuses feel hopeless. I wonder who would be able to break this record. Alright, the competition is about to start. Xuanhou's name was known by everyone in the true spirit continent. As long as someone talked about top martial geniuses, people would subconsciously compare her to them. Everyone watching the competition was no exception. Shoo! Morong Qingqing's body flashed, her purple clothes fluttering in the air. She disappeared from where she was standing like a bubble. When she reappeared, she was already on the stage. In front of her, Bing Ling's body was surrounded by a freezing cold qi. Wherever she went, the water yuan qi in the air would be frozen, turning into tiny ice crystals that fell onto the ground. Glacier break. Feeling the pressure brought by Morong Qingqing, Bing Ling attacked first. She performed the ace movement of her ice break fist art. Pop! When the freezing fist power was still 10 meters away from Morong Qingqing, it suddenly exploded. Sky Demon Catch. The Sky Demon power field gathered on her palm. Morong Qingqing took a step forward, grabbing towards Bing Ling, who was dozens of meters away. Crack. The stage was shattered, but Bing Ling managed to dodge it in time. While she was in mid-air, she made a grabbing gesture in the air with her right hand. An ice blade that was made of freezing zhenqi was thrown out. Morong Qingqing looked very calm. She pushed out her long and slim palm, shattering the ice blade instantly. In the next moment, a wave of invisible ripple instantly landed on Bing Ling's protective zhenqi layer, bringing up piles of ice shards. Such a powerful attack had shocked a lot of young warriors. The Sky Demon power field was shapeless and hard to defend against. In the previous competitions, most of the people had been caught by Morong Qingqing through the air, which made them feel dizzy. Chapter 269. Ice Skycrack Cut. The Ice Break Fist art was a top-rank Earth Realm fist art. There were 14 movements in total, and the last 3 killing movements were extremely hard to train. Until now, Bing Ling could barely perform the third last movement, the Ice Crystal Fist. Although this Ice Sky Crack Cut was not a killing movement, its power was way more powerful than the Ice Break art, and was only weaker than the top 3 killing movements. Swoosh! The perfect ice blade appeared in front of Bing Ling's body. After a slight pause, it flew out with a power that seemed to be able to cut through the air. Because of its high speed and low temperature, it actually left a white ice trail in the air, which was beautiful and dangerous. Morong Qingqing did not dare to underestimate the ice blade. She reached out both of her hands and gripped in the air. The Sky Demon power field burst out. Squeak! The ice blade's speed suddenly slowed down, and its surface started to twist slightly. Break! Morong Qingqing saw Bing Ling's movement again, so she frowned. Her Sky Demon Jinqi disappeared like water, turning into the invisible Sky Demon power field. Bang! Ice shards flew everywhere. Right then, Bing Ling had already prepared a new ace attack, which was the Ice Spirit Exploding spell that she had used on Yi Chen. The crystal ice ball spun faster, shooting towards Morong Qingqing as fast as lightning. Sky Demon Palm Print. Destroy! Although Morong Qingqing had never experienced the power of the Ice Spirit Exploding spell herself, but from the battle between Bing Ling and Yi Chen, she could tell that it was definitely not a normal ace attack. It was a killing attack. The sky demon power field could defend against that explosive power, but it could not defend against the horrifying low temperature. Without thinking about it, she immediately cancelled the sky demon power field and poured all of her Zhen Qi into her right arm. Her slim palm carried a power that was as deep as the ocean and attacked in the air. Boom! In front of his palm, all the ice crystals within 100 meters floated up and turned into nothingness. The ice ball, on the other hand, seemed to have sunk into a swamp, and its speed slowed to a terrifying degree. Then it exploded with a bang and was completely annihilated. If it was in the past, Morong Qingqing would consume too much of her true qi after using this move, and her combat power would be sharply reduced. However, since the Great Heavenly Devil technique had been upgraded to the 10th stage, she could now easily use the Great Heavenly Devil palm print, and the consumption of true qi was no more than 10% of her total true qi. Demonic palm print, Heaven's Rebuke. Before she retracted her right palm, Morong Qingqing's left hand struck out. A shocking scene happened. Bing Ling seemed to be repelled by this space. Her whole body was thrown out uncontrollably, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Her body twisted a couple of times in the air, before Bing Ling landed on the ground steadily. She said, "The Great Heavenly Devil art is indeed worthy of its reputation. I have lost." The Sky Flying Demon Martial School had two top martial arts. One was the Sky Demon art, and the other was the Great Heavenly Devil art. The Sky Demon art was good at seeing through weaknesses and killing with one attack. The Great Heavenly Devil art was a martial art that mainly focused on attacking. Not only could it train the Sky Demon power field, it also contained the accompanying martial art, the Great Heavenly Devil palm print. Among all the top-rank Earth Realm martial arts in the South Rudra region, it was one of the top ones, and extremely hard to train. Although Bing Ling's Icebreak Fist art was powerful, the Great Heavenly Devil art was the bane of it. Bing Ling could not even get close to Morong Qingqing. "Thank you for letting me win." Morong Qingqing held her fists together. As the two got off the stage, the audience seating was still very lively. 4 of the top 10 seated contestants had already been eliminated, and there were still 6 contestants left for this round. Among the 6, 5 of them were super popular, such as Xikong Sheng, Yan Qihua, Li Daoxian, Lin Yun, and Yi Chen. As for Mo Yen, because he had lost to Tua Baku, his popularity had dropped drastically, and he was not as popular among the top young warriors. The 15th battle, Li Daoxian against Yan Qihua. Woo! The battling field was silent for a second, then a shocking wave of voices exploded. Yan Qihua was ranked 2nd in the last Hidden Dragon rank, and was the #1 blade artist among the young generation in the South Rudra region. His blade art was extremely powerful and aggressive. Even the older generation of blade artists could not compete with him. Before Yi Chen showed up, Li Daoxian was the #1 sword artist among the young generation in the South Rudra region. His sword art was sharp and ruthless, and he could kill with every movement he made. He was called the emotionless sword artist. One was the #1 blade artist, and the other was the #1 sword artist. The battle between the two could ignite the blood in the hearts of the warriors watching the battle. A lot of people felt their throats go dry, their eyes wide open as they stared at the two on the stage. "You and I have not fought for 3 years. I wonder if your emotionless sword art could break my blade art." If Xikong Sheng was the king warrior among the young generation, then the fire spirit prince, Yan Qihua, would undoubtedly be the tyrant warrior among the young generation. His aggressiveness was born naturally, and he could look down on the whole world. "We will know after we try." Li Daoxian was wearing blue robes, looking very skinny. Standing there, he looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind. However, once his sword appeared in his hand, a sharp and ruthless sword intent spread out. The whole world seemed to be covered by his sword intent, cutting everything in its way. Yan Qihua glanced at Li Daoxian and said proudly, 3 years ago, you were not my opponent, and 3 years later, you will not be my opponent either. Right now I will let you attack for 3 times. Within these 3 attacks, I will not take out my blade. If you can win even 1 or 2 attacks from me, I would not mind losing to you." Li Daoxian frowned. "There is no need to let me win. I will let you take out your blade for the first attack. Haha, bring it on then. If I cannot even let you have 3 attacks, how could I compete for the number 1? Without saying a word, the blade aura around Yin Chihua's body had increased a little bit. His blade was not out of its scabbard yet, but it gave people the feeling of a long blade piercing through the air, which was extremely aggressive. Clang! Li Daoxuan's sword had been taken out of its scabbard. The blade could not be seen. Only a faint sword light could be seen sweeping out and flashing. Break for me! Yin Chihua shouted loudly. His red Jin Chi shot up into the sky, turning into a huge burning blade that was 30 meters long, and slashed heavily in the air. The sword light was like the wind, invisible and formless. Although Yin Chihua's burning huge blade, which was made of Jin Chi, had shattered the sword light instantly, but in the next second, the sword light had gathered together again, slicing towards his opponent's face. Such a sharp sword move, and such a strange wind mentality. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. The sword light that Li Daoxian had waved out was like a gust of wind. Even if the wind dispersed, it was still the wind. Or it could be said that the wind would never disperse, it would always be there. So what if you have the wind mentality? Help me with my blade aura. Yin Chihua's right hand sucked in the air, and the sword light was pulled over. Immediately, beams of red blade light shot out from his palm. The blade light was like fire. After swallowing Li Daoxuan's sword light, it became even more powerful, and rushed back towards Li Daoxian like a forest fire. Once this move was performed, half of the top young warrior's expression suddenly changed. How overbearing was this? He had taken the opponent's attack as his own. Li Daoxuan's expression was extremely serious. After 3 years, Yin Chihua's blade art had reached an incredible level. Just relying on the wind mentality would not be able to force him to use his real power. Kill. Once the emotionless sword art was performed, Li Daoxian had thrown away all his emotions. He was like an ancient well without any ripples. His sword did not have any emotions either. All it had was an endless sharp light, cutting everything in front of it. Break it for me just the same. Without taking out his long blade, Yin Chihua's attacking power had been reduced drastically. Facing Li Daoxuan's second sword attack, he pushed his spirit, chi, and soul to the peak. Using both of his arms as blades and both of his hands as blades, each of them had thrown out a couple of meters long red blade light, clashing together in the air. Shoo! 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 The surface of the platform was instantly filled with hundreds of holes. Sword chi and blade chi were flying everywhere like a hornet's nest had exploded, which was extremely spectacular. The third sword attack. Kill. Once this sword attack had been performed, the air had strangely calmed down. The sword light pointed right at Yin Chihua. Yin Chihua kept backing out. He had let Li Daoxian attack 3 times. Not only because he was confident, but also because he wanted to challenge his own limit. If he could handle 3 sword attacks from Li Daoxian safely, then he would be qualified to challenge Xikongsheng. Otherwise, there would be no need to even talk about challenging Xikongsheng. This sword attack from Li Daoxian was extremely sharp and sharp. No matter where Yin Chihua backed out to, he felt like he was being stabbed by a needle, making his hair stand up. Shoo! Right then, Yin Chihua was finally ready to use his great blade. Without taking it out of the scabbard, he directly threw out a horizontal attack with the blade still in the scabbard. That red blade light spread out, giving people a horrifying illusion of a volcano eruption and lava shooting up into the sky. It clashed with that heart-piercing sword light. Boom! 2 colors appeared on the 300 meters long battling platform. One was a light silver color, and the other was an endless red color. They were clearly separated, and neither of them was willing to give in to the other. Right then, everyone held their breaths and did not even blink their eyes, afraid that they would miss the most crucial moment. In their eyes, Yin Chihua was unbelievably powerful. Without taking out his great blade, he was able to handle 3 sword attacks from Li Daoxian without falling into a disadvantage. It was indeed horrifying. Yi Chen's opinion was slightly different from everyone else's. Although Yin Chihua's blade art was powerful, Li Daoxian was not bad either. The reason why Yin Chihua was able to handle 3 sword attacks from Li Daoxian was not only because of his extremely powerful power, but also because he knew everything about Li Daoxian. If it were another unfamiliar sword artist, who was at the same level as Li Daoxian, Yan Qihua would not have been so careless. Besides these reasons, there was another reason. As everyone knew, 3 attacks was neither too long nor too short. When 2 equally powerful sword artists and blade artists were fighting against each other, if one of them did not carry a blade, then his attacking power would be greatly reduced. However, it would not be a problem for him to hold out for 3 attacks, since he still had the mentality of his blade art. What he lacked was only the attacking power and aura. It would be impossible for one of them to lose immediately without a weapon. Of course, Yan Qihua's power was that he did not fall into a disadvantage within 3 attacks. The number 2 of the last hidden dragon rank was indeed not a normal warrior. 3 sword attacks have passed. 3 sword attacks were already Yan Qihua's limit. He took out his great blade without any hesitation, and continued to attack along with his previous blade aura. He had pushed the mentality of volcano eruption to another level, which had shattered Li Daoxuan's sword aura within a second. It was like a flood that had opened the floodgates, rushing towards Yan Qihua. Empty kill. In the previous 3 sword attacks, Li Daoxian did not seem to hold back at all. However, facing a blade artist who did not even take out his blade, his attacking power had subconsciously weakened a lot. Maybe he thought that it was not a fair win. Right then, as Yan Qihua threw out his blade attack, Li Daoxuan's sword aura had reached another level, his sword intent surging. Ding! Dang! Dang! Within a couple of blinks of an eye, the 2 had exchanged dozens of attacks. Burning sparks flew everywhere, and no one could even see where the 2 of them were. That kind of soul-stirring battle had even made the audience forget to breathe, their faces turning red. The sparks did not disappear, and the 2 had exchanged more and more attacks at a higher frequency. For the first time, Imo Yen, who had been operating his sky demon eyes, felt a bit sore in his eyes. Swoosh! A human shadow flew out. It was Li Daoxian. There was a burnt mark on his shoulder, and his clothes had been burned into ashes. Chapter 270. Looking at Yan Qihua again, he was perfectly fine. However, there was a strand of hair missing from his temple, which was flying in the wind and falling onto the ground. Taking my ace attack and not dying. You are the first one in the past 3 years. Putting his long blade back into its scabbard, Yan Qihua touched his temple, which seemed to still have Li Daoxuan's sword intent. Cough. Li Daoxian puked out a mouthful of blood. What a shame. I was still 1 point away. On the 198th attack, he threw out his sword first, cutting off a strand of Yan Qihua's hair. After that, Yan Qihua's attack arrived right at his shoulder. At the critical moment, it was flicked away by Yan Qihua's finger, saving him from a serious injury. However, that burning hot blade light still brushed past his body, causing some damage to his meridians. In the battle between the 2, Li Daoxian had lost by half an attack. Awa! The dragon-shaped shadow on Yan Qihua's body jumped towards Li Daoxian. When it came back, it had expanded from 29 meters to 22 meters, getting closer and closer to Xikongsheng. Amazing! Yan Qihua is indeed worthy of being the top young warrior, who is only below Xikongsheng. Even Li Daoxian could not stop him. It is indeed amazing, but I could not see through anything at all. I wonder how they managed to decide the winner at the last moment. If even you could see through it, how could it be amazing? Waiting until the 2 got off the stage, everyone's heart was in their throat again. There were still 2 more battles between top young warriors in this round, and no one knew who would be fighting who. The 16th battle was Su Jing against the 4th Knight. The 2's styles were quite similar, choosing to fight with brute force. In the end, it was still Su Jing who was slightly better and beat the 4th Knight. The 17th battle was between Gao Feng and Wei Renjia. Gao Feng's sword art was superb, not sticking to a single style, while Wei Renjia's blade art was big and bold, with the demeanor of a master. The 2 of them fought for more than 30 rounds, and Gao Feng used his sword to knock away Wei Renjia's long blade, and the tip of his sword landed on Wei Renjia's neck. The 18th battle was between Wuxia and Lynch. As an experienced warrior in the hidden dragon rank, Although Wuxia had just comprehended the blade intent not too long ago, his cultivation was way higher than Lynch's. The two had exchanged hundreds of attacks, but Wuxia's skills were still better than Lynch's. The 19th match. After the 25th match, the audience burst into cheers. Yi Chen was one of the two contestants, and his opponent was the head disciple of the Sky Demon Martial School, the Demon Eyes Mo Yen, who was ranked 8th in the last Hidden Dragon rank. Ever since Mo Yen had lost to Tuabaku, his popularity had dropped a bit. However, some of the powerful Clasping Yuan Realm warriors would not underestimate him. The reason why he had lost to Tuabaku was because his opponent's defense was on the higher side, and it would not be easy to see through his weaknesses. Otherwise, if it were someone else who was at the same level as Tuabaku, it would be hard to tell who would win. After all, as an experienced top young warrior, the Demon Eyes Mo Yen would not be easy to deal with. Of course, no one would dare to underestimate Yi Chen even more. Since the beginning of the elimination battles, he had been winning all the battles without losing a single one. His sword art skills were just as powerful as the heartless sword artist Li Daoxian. Plus, he had the 50% sword intent, plus his extremely calm personality. In other words, Yi Chen was one of the most horrifying young warriors in this year's young generation. He and Tuabaku were the top two new top young warriors. His popularity was right behind the top young warriors like Sikong Sheng and the others. What caught people's attention even more was that the Demon Eyes Mo Yen had trained the Sky Demon art, which allowed him to see through weaknesses. Once he attacked, it would be aimed at his opponent's vital parts. Judging from the previous battles, Yi Chen's ability to see through weaknesses was just as horrifying. What was different from Mo Yen was that Yi Chen was good at seeing through the weaknesses of martial arts. As long as he got serious, his opponent would not be able to perform a complete martial art. Bing Ling and Qian Yun were the best examples. On the battling platform, Yi Chen and Mo Yen stood 80 meters away from each other. Just like a small portion of the people, Yi Chen would not underestimate Mo Yen. In fact, among the top young warriors, besides Sikong Sheng, Yan Qihua, Li Daoxian, and Morong Qingcheng, Mo Yen would be ranked number 1 in terms of battling with him. Even Tuabaku and Lin Yun would be slightly weaker than him, because Yi Chen was a martial artist himself, while Tuabaku and Lin Yun were not as good at it. However, Yi Chen also knew that Tuabaku and Lin Yun were more powerful than Mo Yen, since the two of them had both reached the 11th realm of their martial arts, which made them extremely powerful. The Sky Demon Eyes are very mysterious. They can see through the weaknesses of things, and nothing can hide. Yi Chen's protective Zhenqi layer is a bit weak. I am afraid this battle will not be easy. Indeed, among the top young warriors, there are a few who could counter each other. For example, Tuabaku could counter Mo Yen, and Morong Qingcheng could counter Bing Ling. In a way, Mo Yen could counter Yi Chen. You are right, but Mo Yan's movements might also be seen through by Yi Chen, and it would not work. Without a real battle, no one would know what would happen. The battle had not started yet, but everyone was already expressing their opinions. Your protective Zhenqi layer only has 2 weaknesses, which surprised me a lot. Mo Yen did not attack right away, but said something suddenly. Yi Chen smiled lightly. Even the nature has weaknesses. As a human being, I naturally have weaknesses as well. However, knowing the existence of weaknesses and hitting them are 2 different things. He had already trained his mysterious great art to the highest realm, and it came from the Heaven Dream Battle Palace. So it was natural that he would not have many weaknesses. As for the other top young warriors, although their martial arts were of a very high rank, none of them had reached the highest realm. They were only more powerful, and their protective Zhenqi layer had even more weaknesses than him. Mo Yen sneered. I haven't finished yet. Your protective Zhenqi indeed only has 2 weak points. But in my eyes, your protective Zhenqi itself is the weak point. Under one attack, it won't be able to hold on for a blink of an eye. It might not even be able to hold on for half a blink. Since you are this confident, then I have nothing else to say. From now on, your attacks will not touch me even once. The Star Scar sword appeared in his hand as Yi Chen stopped talking. Mysterious spirit finger. Just as Yi Chun was about to speak, Mo Yin moved. He put his right index and middle fingers together, and a dim light appeared on them, stabbing towards Yi Chun from a distance. He thought to himself, fake and real and fake, this is my fighting style. If it is not because you cannot adapt to it, then I am sorry. All of the warriors watching the battle were speechless. They had already known about Mo Yan's fighting style, but attacking when someone else was talking was a bit too petty. All of the people from the Sky Cloud Martial School frowned. They knew how powerful Mo Yan was. Even Tuabaku had been hit a couple of times. If it were not for his powerful defense, he would have been beaten by Mo Yan already. And it was a fact that Yi Chun had trained a weak martial art. He was afraid that his protective Jinqi layer would not be able to block out that finger attack. He could only try his best to avoid it. The mysterious spirit finger could change its route within a second, and this time was no exception. When it was 5 feet away from Yi Chun, the finger light suddenly disappeared. When it reappeared, it was already in front of Yi Chun. Pooh! Right at that moment, a beam of sword light sliced across, cutting open the finger light. It was like it had been waiting for the finger light to arrive. How is this possible? How could he see through my mysterious spirit finger? Mo Yan did not expect to beat Yi Chun with his mysterious spirit finger. In his opinion, Yi Chun would definitely avoid it, just like Tuabaku. If that happened, the mysterious spirit 7 fingers would be ready to attack. Even if it could not beat Yi Chun, it would at least make him look bad and lose his previous glory. He had never expected that Yi Chun would be able to see through his mysterious spirit finger attack with only one glance. Cutting open the finger light, Yi Chun said lightly, I said it before, your attack will not touch me even once. Arrogant. Mo Yin was furious. He put up his index and middle fingers, stabbing out at Yi Chun. It was indeed the mysterious spirit 7 fingers that had shaved off one of Tuabaku's eyebrows. Ting! 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 There was no need to throw out 7 sword attacks. Yi Chun had only thrown out 3 sword attacks to cut open the finger light one by one. Moreover, he did not even move an inch. Shoo! After doing all that, Yi Chun's body moved, flying towards Mo Yin at an extreme speed. Back out! Mo Yin switched to his more powerful mysterious spirit finger attack, attacking towards Yi Chun from a distance. Pooh! It was Yi Chun's Jinqi shadow that had been shattered. His real body was already less than 1 meter away from Mo Yin. His blue robe danced in the air as he waved the long sword in his hand 4 times. Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step. His body turned into a black chi flow and disappeared. Mo Yin pushed his Jinqi and appeared behind Yi Chun within a second. However, what was waiting for him was also a beam of sword light. Pooh! His protective Jinqi layer had been cut in half. Mo Yin was shocked. Right then, he looked like he had just seen a ghost. No one had ever been this relaxed in front of him, as if he was in control of the whole situation. Meanwhile, he was like a bug on a spider's web. No matter how hard he struggled, it would all be futile. This kind of feeling annoyed him even more. I do not believe that you can predict my attack route again. Mo Yin continued to perform his Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step. His whole body turned into a black chi flow, surrounding Yi Chun. Looking over, one could only see countless black lines, but not a single human figure. Yi Chun took 3 steps to the right, then suddenly turned his body. The Star Scar sword combined with the fast sword poetic perspective threw out an attack. No sword light could be seen, only blood spilling everywhere. Mo Yin did not believe it, so he pushed his Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step art to its limit. Towards the end, Yi Chun was surrounded by layers of black chi flow. It was hard to tell which one was real and which one was fake. The Star Scar sword flashed once again. Another stream of blood spilled out. This time it was even more serious than before. When Yi Chun waved his sword for the 3rd time, Mo Yin froze on the spot, unable to move. It was not that he could not move, but that he did not dare to move. Because the tip of Yi Chun's sword was pointed at his throat. The sharp intent had even pierced through his skin a little, and a drop of blood came out. It would be fine if you do not move. Once you move, you will have a lot of weaknesses. Hearing him, Mo Yan's face turned red. From the beginning to the end, He had been under Yi Chen's control. His sky demon eyes had indeed seen through all of his weaknesses, but it was still useless. Unless he did not attack at all. Once he did, all of his weaknesses would be exposed, and he would not even be able to threaten his opponent. Shoo! Taking back his star sword, Yi Chen shook his head. Among the young generation, unless they were at the same level as him, it would not take much effort to take care of their opponents. Mo Yin was no exception. The dragon-shaped shadow outside his body had devoured part of Mo Yan's dragon fountain chi. It had expanded to 28 meters, its shape clear and majestic. The audience was dead silent. In the battle between Yi Chen and Mo Yin had lost completely. In front of Yi Chen, Mo Yan's sky demon eyes did not have much of an effect, because all of his attacks had been seen through by Yi Chen. In other words, compared to Tua Baku, Yi Chen was more like Mo Yan's nemesis. Chapter 271. So scary. He could even see through Mo Yan's movements. How did he do it? A lot of people could not understand. If it was because he could see through other people's movements, then it would be because they had not fully mastered their martial arts yet. However, Mo Yin had trained the sky demon eyes and had a deep understanding of martial arts movements. He belonged to the skillful martial arts school. So how could he be beaten by another skillful martial artist so easily? Phantom Spirit Finger, Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step, they were both seen through. Mo Yin lost completely. They are not even at the same level. Right next to Li Daoxian, a core disciple of the Heartless Martial School asked, "Head disciple, do you know what is going on? Could it be that Yi Chen's martial art realm is way beyond Mo Yan's, and he has already reached another level?" It is for sure that Yi Chen's martial art realm is beyond Mo Yan's, but the difference is not that big. The reason why Mo Yin lost was because he was not fast enough, and he was not powerful enough. As one of the top sword artists in the young generation, Li Daoxuan's eyes were obviously better than others. Not fast enough? Not powerful enough? That disciple was still a bit confused. Li Daoxian explained. It was not fast enough, which caused Mo Yin to be one step slower. Although he had attacked first, he could not reach first. That was the key. It was not powerful enough because the sky demon art was slightly weaker in terms of attacking power and focused more on techniques. Therefore, he was not as powerful as Yi Chen in either aspect. Naturally, he would not be able to pose much of a threat to Yi Chen. Hearing Li Daoxuan's explanation, the disciple finally understood. I see. If he was fast enough, then even if Yi Chen could see through the weaknesses of his movements, he would not be able to react fast enough. However, if he was powerful enough, then he would not need to care about weaknesses and could choose to fight head-on. Otherwise, he would not be an opponent for Yi Chen at all. Yes, that should be it. On the surface, Bing Ling's fighting ability is weaker than Mo Yan's, but Bing Ling can exchange a lot of moves with Yi Chen. Mo Yin can't. Li Daoxian was more or less right. No one knew his own situation better than Yi Chen. Mo Yan's weak point attack might seem very strong in other people's eyes, but Yi Chen was not afraid of this kind of opponent. If Mo Yin was a little stronger, he could at least exchange a few moves with him. Of course, there were some differences. Comparing Mo Yin, Tua Baku, and Lin Yun together, Yi Chen still thought that Mo Yin would be more difficult to deal with. The latter two were indeed powerful enough, but Yi Chen did not need to spend any effort at all. As long as he increased his attacking power to a certain level, he would be able to hit them easily. When facing Mo Yin, Yi Chen did not choose to use his sky-shattering clouds, which was a head-on attack, because he knew that it would be very hard to hit Mo Yin. Therefore, he might as well use his fast sword poetic perspective, which was not as powerful. Facing different people, he would use different battle plans. This was Yi Chen's style. Obviously, attacking head-on would be the easiest. Excluding the top three, Xikong Sheng, Yan Qihua, Li Daoxian, and Morong Qingqing would be the real tricky ones. It would be impossible for Yi Chen to win against them easily. He would have to use his own power to fight against them, since it would be impossible for him to control the whole situation. However, Yi Chen still had some ace up his sleeve, such as his 70% sword intent. This guy is a special one. Those who are not as powerful as him would basically be crushed within one attack. There is no doubt about it. The head judge finally opened his mouth. Hearing him, the other judges nodded. In their eyes, Yichen was indeed different. Normally, if a powerful warrior wanted to beat a warrior who was not that much weaker than him, it would not be a one-sided situation. It would take at least dozens of attacks to decide the winner. However, Yichen was able to ignore this rule. Those who were not as powerful as him would not even have the right to bother him. The battle has ended. Let's announce the next battle, the head judge said. A judge next to him stood up. Yichen wins the 27th battle. The battle continued, and Yichen went back to the audience. Originally, after beating Mo Yen, he should be the center of attention. However, right now it was not him but Sikong Sheng and Lin Yun. More specifically Sikong Sheng. So far, 8 of the top 10 seeded contestants had appeared, and the remaining 2 were indeed Sikong Sheng and Lin Yun. Sikong Sheng, the head disciple of the Floating Mountain Martial School, was 20 years old this year. He had participated in 3 hidden dragon rank competitions in total. The first time he participated in the competition, he was only 15 years old. It was a dark horse, and he had won the second place. What was even more frightening was that he had not even reached the Clasping Yuan realm back then. He had beaten a lot of young warriors who were at the Clasping Yuan realm, with his late condensing reality realm cultivation. Since then his name had spread across the whole South Ridra region. In the second hidden dragon rank competition, he was only 18 years old. He had thought that there would be a fierce battle, but he had used his indisputable power to go through all the obstacles. He had beaten the top young warrior of the previous hidden dragon rank, the fire spirit prince Yan Qihua, the eldest prince of the Black Dragon Empire, and the heartless sword artist Li Daoxian and the others. He had become the king warrior of the young generation in the whole South Ridra region. His fame had spread across the whole South Ridra region. This was the 3rd hidden dragon rank competition he had participated in. No one knew his real power, but it was said that he had already reached the limit of the Clasping Yuan realm, and was training his Zhen Qi to prepare for the astral reaching realm. No matter what, Sikong Sheng's power was obvious to everyone. Everyone thought that he would still be the king of this year's hidden dragon rank, and no one would be able to shake his position. Although the head disciple of the Skyfall Martial School, Lin Yun was not as bright as Sikong Sheng, and not as aggressive as Yan Qihua, he was still ranked 5th in the last hidden dragon rank. As the top martial genius of the South Ridra region, who knew what kind of progress he would make in the next 3 years? Just like Morong Qingqing 3 years ago, she was only ranked 27th at that time. But this year, she had suddenly become one of the top young warriors, and was one of the most popular candidates for the top 5. Lin Yun, who was ranked even higher than Morong Qingqing, would not be easy to deal with. The title of the top young warrior in the South Ridra region was way too famous, and there would definitely be a lot of people staring at it. If Sikong Sheng wanted to keep his position, he would have to have enough power. Right now his first challenge had come, and it was Lin Yun, who was not friendly at all. The battle between the two had attracted a lot of people's attention. The 31st battle, Sikong Sheng against Lin Yun. As the battles had ended one after another, the head judge had finally announced the winner of the 31st battle himself. Boom! Not only the warriors who were watching the battle, all of the young warriors had their eyes fixed on the battling platform without blinking. The sound of their heartbeats could even be heard. Sikong Sheng has finally shown up. Even if Lin Yun could not win, he would at least be able to force out most of his power. Someone said, "Indeed, if it were someone else, it would not be worth watching anymore." I wonder how far Lin Yun could push Sikong Sheng. Let's wait and see. After hearing his name, Lin Yun's aura exploded. His body flashed once, shooting out like a meteor onto the battling platform. His aggressive posture was shocking. Different from Lin Yun's arrogance, Sikong Sheng did not seem to care about Lin Yun at all. He put his right hand behind his back, and walked right in front of Lin Yun with one step. The two top young warriors had officially confronted each other. Sikong Sheng, I thought our battle would last until the end. I did not expect it to be brought forward. This is good as well. It would save me the trouble of hiding my power. The clothes on Lin Yun's body started to vibrate as his qi power was ready to explode. A burning hot qi that was completely different from Yin qi was spread out. Sikong Sheng put his right hand behind his back, while his left hand was casually placed on the side. He said lightly, "You are not my opponent. If it were Yin Qihua, I would be interested to have a try. Ha! I will let you know my real power." Lin Yun's eyes shone with a bright light, which contained the poetic perspective of a meteor falling from the sky. It attacked towards Sikong Sheng aggressively. At the same time, he roared as an iron spear appeared in his hand. The iron spear was covered in a dark red flame, as he threw out a spear attack. Skyfire 4 Spear. As soon as the spear was thrown out, the dark red flame started to spin crazily, turning into countless fire patterns and shooting out. The burning temperature had even ignited the fire yuan qi in the air, adding to its power. Destroy! Sikong Sheng reached out his left hand. His 5 fingers opened as he grabbed towards the fire patterns in the air. Pooh! The fire patterns had been extinguished. Right then, Lin Yun's following 3 spear attacks had arrived. Each spear attack was more violent and faster than the previous one. A huge amount of fire yuan qi had turned into pure fuel, merging into the spear aura. It had turned a small half of the battling platform into a world of fire. Inside the world of fire, 3 meteor-like spear light shot out. Interesting. Sky Pushing Palm. The Sky Pushing Palm was a top martial art of the Floating Mountain Martial School, but it was not the top martial art. It was only at the high-rank Earth Realm level. However, when Sikong Sheng performed it, the whole space had been cleared out instantly. The flames had been pushed back, unable to move any further. Meanwhile, those 3 meteor-like spear light had been shattered bit by bit under the vibration of the palm power. They then disappeared completely. The other leaders of the rank 6 martial institutions' pupils shrank. Sikong Sheng's martial art mastery had obviously reached perfection. The wonders of the Sky Pushing Palm had been fully displayed. Skyfall Attack. His attack had been dissolved, so Lin Yun took a deep breath and poured all of his Zhen Qi into his iron spear. He and the spear had become one, bringing with them an unstoppable aura as he attacked out. The young warriors who were close to him had been affected by the poetic perspective. They felt like they were in a world of chaos, and huge flaming meteors had appeared in the sky. With his right hand still behind his back, Sikong Sheng's expression started to turn serious. His left palm turned into a fist, holding it tightly together as he threw out a punch. Sky Tyrant Fist. As he threw out this punch, the surrounding sky and earth seemed to have been merged into the fist aura, carrying the will of the sky as it attacked towards Lin Yun. The air in front of him twisted and turned blurry. The space vibrated, and the people under the stage could not even see where Lin Yun was. They could only see Sikong Sheng standing there quietly like a king on the stage. Boom! A crack appeared on the tough battling platform. Lin Yun held the iron spear in his hand as he puked out a mouthful of blood and was blown back. His poetic perspective had been completely destroyed. Sky Tyrant Fist. This is the secret martial art created by the mysterious king. Combined with Sikong Sheng's status as a king warrior of the young generation, no one would be able to compete with him. Lin Yun was able to force Sikong Sheng to use his Sky Tyrant Fist. He did not lose too badly. He could only blame Sikong Sheng for being too powerful and being above the young generation. Chapter 272. Sikong Sheng, take another attack of mine. Blood Flame Break. Just when everyone thought that the battle had come to an end, Lin Yun, who was still flying backward, waved his right hand in the air. All of the blood that had spilled out gathered into a pile. Under the burning of the dark red flame, it made a cracking sound before turning into a bloody spear tip, shooting towards Sikong Sheng. Shoo! The blood-condensed spear tip was extremely fast. It was like a beam of bloody lightning, shooting out in front of Sikong Sheng within a second. Sikong Sheng looked a bit surprised as he threw out a punch onto the tip of the spear. Swoosh! The tip of the spear had been shattered. The blood-red flame expanded rapidly in the air, devouring Sikong Sheng completely. What? Lin Yun still has this kind of attack. There were a lot of clasping Yuan realm warriors who were able to compete with, or even kill rank 6 tyrant beasts. They could tell with one glance that Lin Yun's ace attack could kill any rank 6 tyrant beasts within a second. That blood-red flame was not a normal flame either. It was a special flame that had been infused with the power of blood, which was extremely sticky. Xikong Sheng's protective Jinqi layer had been melted by the blood-red flame. It was like a pile of snow in the winter, or a block of ice in the early spring. Stumbling onto the platform, Lin Yun reached out his hand and wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth. He chuckled and said, "This attack is a killing attack that I had specially modified for you. It is your honor to be defeated by this attack." "Lin Yun, do you really think that you can beat me with this attack? You have overestimated yourself." Wrapped in the flame, Xikong Sheng's right hand, which had been behind his back, finally reached out. That hand was long and powerful, and there was nothing special about it. However, when the 5 fingers of that right hand opened up, the space around it started to shake drastically. It was like what he had opened up was not his fingers, but the whole sky. The burning blood-colored flame started to spin and shrink crazily with that hand as the center. It eventually shrunk into an egg-sized blood-colored fireball, landing on top of Xikong Sheng's palm. It was less than half an inch away from the center of his palm. Pooh! Xikong Sheng clenched his fist, and the fireball turned into a beam of blue smoke before disappearing. Raising his face, Xikong Sheng's eyes were like gods as he stared at Lin Yun and said, "The winner has been decided. Do you still want to fight?" You're good." A reluctant look flashed through Lin Yun's face. He had prepared for this attack for a long time, but it still could not do anything to Xikong Sheng. Although he still had other ace attacks, they were not as powerful as the blood fire break. It would be a waste to expose his ace attack. "Never mind. If I can't fight for the first place, then I will fight for the second place." The dragon-shaped shadow on Xikong Sheng's body was 24 meters long, but after devouring Lin Yun's dragon fountain qi, it had instantly reached 26 meters, which was getting closer and closer to 90 meters. Xikong Sheng's power is still overwhelming. Even Lin Yun could not pose any threat to him. I wonder who else in this rank would be able to fight against him for real. Yeah, if I can't see the pinnacle battles, it will be quite boring. Yan Qihua should be able to make him take it seriously. As for the undefeated Yi Chen, it's hard to say for now. Only when he becomes the #1 swordsman of the younger generation will he have the basic qualifications. Yi Chen might not be able to win against Li Daoxian, not to mention Xikong Sheng. 50% of his sword intent is still too weak after all. He might not be able to win against Li Daoxian, not to mention Xikong Sheng. Right now it is still too early to talk about this. The 63rd round is about to end. Perhaps we will be able to see something in the 64th round. The battle between Xikong Sheng and Lin Yun was not that intense. Everyone was still looking forward to the next round of battles. Soon the 63rd round had ended. The 64th round did not start right away, as some of the wounded young warriors needed to recover their energy and injuries, especially the top young warriors. Right then, the power of the martial institutions had been revealed. Bing Ling, Li Daoxian, and Lin Yun had only been slightly wounded, but the pellets they had used were worth tens of thousands of mid-rank soul stones. Combined with the healing from the Sea of Souls realm warriors, they had all been healed within 2 hours. As for Mo Yen, he had only been wounded on the skin, so it would not be a big deal even if he did not need to be healed. After 2 hours, the 64th round had begun. In the first 6 battles, it was not the top young warrior's turn yet. In the 7th round, Li Daoxian was the first one to fight. His opponent was Mo Yen, who had lost to Yi Chen in the last round. Facing Li Daoxian, Mo Yen finally did not have to worry about anything anymore. Before, he had lost to Tua Baku and Yi Chen, and most of the reasons were because he had been suppressed. Tua Baku's defense had made his Sky Demon Eyes useless, and Yi Chen's ability to see through the weaknesses of his attacks had also made him lose. Although Li Daoxian was extremely powerful, and was not weaker than Tua Baku and Yi Chen, as long as he was not suppressed, he would be able to perform his Sky Demon Eyes as much as he wanted, attacking the weaknesses that he was good at. Mysterious Spirit 7 Finger. His body was like a ghost as Mo Yin walked around Li Daoxian. No one could see his body clearly. He held up his index and middle fingers together, continuously pointing at Mo Yan's weaknesses. Kill. 5 beams of sword light flashed through, and the finger light had been cut open one after another. Li Daoxian extended his body, and his sword intent spread out, locking onto Mo Yan's general location. He threw out a sword attack. The black chi flow was torn apart like a piece of cloth, and Mo Yan's body was exposed. He stepped back with both of his feet, shooting out 5 beams of finger light in a row, shattering that sharp sword chi. Kill. Once he performed his emotionless sword arts ace attack, the air had strangely calmed down. A light sword light that was as calm as water appeared faintly, pointing right at Mo Yan's vital parts. Mo Yan knew how horrifying this sword attack was. The dark red light in his pupils had been condensed to its extreme. He scanned through the air, and found 3 unbalanced spots in the air. Without any hesitation, he shot out his finger light, landing on those 3 spots. Pooh! 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 The light veil was taken off, and the sword light was exposed, attacking over heavily. Shoo! The clothes on Mo Yan's shoulder had been cut open. Tiny drops of blood leaked out of his skin and rolled down. Sky kill. After successfully shattering or dodging Li Daoxian's first 2 sword attacks, Mo Yan's confidence had been boosted, and his aura had become even stronger. However, when Li Daoxian threw out the 3rd sword attack, Mo Yan frowned. This sword attack did not have any sword light at all, nor did it have any sword chi. There were only tiny patterns that spread out in all directions. It seemed like there was sword light everywhere, but there were also sword lights everywhere. How should I defend against it? Mo Yan had a question in his mind. Thoughts flashed through his mind at lightning speed. You lost. Right then, Li Daoxian's voice came from right next to his ears. At the same time, he could feel a bone-piercing sharpness. Mo Yan turned his head, and saw a great sword that was shining with a cold light was less than an inch away from him. The invisible sharp light on the tip of the sword had cut off a few hairs on his body. What is going on? Could it be a fake attack? I can't tell either. Besides some slight vibrations in the air, there was no attack at all. I think it was just to confuse Mo Yan. Even Mo Yan's sky demon eyes could not see through it. Whether it was a fake attack or not, it was horrifying enough. Everyone could not tell what was going on, so they started to discuss. Yan Qihua, who had fought against Li Daoxian before, twitched his mouth but did not say anything. Li Daoxian had used this attack on him before. Hearing everyone's discussion, Yi Chen slightly shook his head. It was definitely not a fake attack. It was a real killing attack. And it was a killing attack that had 2 layers of attacks stacked on top of each other. One was fake while the other was real. One was in the light while the other was in the dark. When you were attracted by the attack in the light, the killing attack in the dark would come right after. When you ignored the attack in the light, then the seemingly fake attack would become a horrifying killing attack. This was a sword attack that was close to perfection. It had to be broken in all aspects, or else it would be unbreakable. Thinking about that, Yi Chen could not help but glance at Yan Qihua. Before, when the two were battling, Li Daoxian's sword speed was extremely fast, and it was hard for him to see through it. After all, everyone had their own limit, and so did Yi Chen. If he could break all kinds of attacks, then it would be too crazy, since he was not that powerful yet. Yan Qihua was facing Li Daoxian's sky kill sword attack, and had broken it with one blade attack. His power was way more horrifying than anyone had imagined, which was completely different from his previous aggressive style. Being rough but also careful, that was what a powerful blade artist should have. Yan Qihua was the #1 blade artist among the young generation in the whole South Shui region. He was definitely worthy of that title. Wei Renjia, who was known as the blade master of the young generation, was still 1 or 2 levels lower than him. After devouring Mo Yan's dragon fountain chi, Li Daoxian had been beaten by Yan Qihua. His dragon shadow, which had shrunk to 23 meters, had grown again to 26 meters. Mo Yan, who had walked off the stage, looked a bit tired. Including Li Daoxian, he had already lost 3 times. The first 2 were against Tuabaku and Yi Chen, Even if he only lost 2 more battles, he would not be able to get into the top 5 of the hidden dragon rank. He would not be able to beat Xikongsheng for sure, and neither would Yan Qihua. Morong Qingqing and Lin Yin were also extremely dangerous. He did not even have a 50% chance of winning. After 3 battles, the second pair of top young warriors got on the stage. Haha, I did not have enough fun in the Black Dragon Empire. This time, I will try my best. Tuabaku laughed out loud the second he got on the stage. His opponent was none other than Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled. I would like to see your full power as well. Come on then. Ruin 18 Fist Art. In Tuabaku's eyes, Yi Chen was the most powerful warrior among the young generation besides Xikongsheng. He did not dare to hide his power at all. His 11th level of defensive martial art had been fully used. His Zhen Qi shot up into the sky as he threw out a punch towards Yi Chen crazily. It was obviously more powerful than when he was fighting against Mo Yen. Pouring 50% of his sword intent into the sky-shattering cloud's poetic perspective, Yi Chen's body turned into a blur as he flashed to the weakest part of the fist aura. He then held his sword with both of his hands and threw out a sword attack with the power of thunder and lightning. It was his most powerful sword attack with 50% of his sword intent, which was also more powerful than before. Pooh! His protective Zhenqi layer had been bitten into pieces by Tuabaku's brutal dragon movement. Yi Chen tightened his left hand into a fist and punched out the dragon-shaped fist power a little bit. It had only brushed past his body. As for his sword attack, it had completely landed on Tuabaku's body, shattering his protective Zhenqi layer. His clothes had been torn apart, and a long white mark appeared on Tuabaku's chest. He laughed and said, "Powerful enough. Too bad, it still could not break through my defense." Ruin Dragon Attack. This time, all of Tuabaku's fist power had turned into dragon shapes. Countless dragon-shaped chi streams rushed towards Yi Chen like a group of dragons dancing in the air. Yi Chen, who was floating in the air, shook his body. A powerful invisible sharp light spread out, shaking the air and bringing up waves of pattern. 60% sword intent exploded. Chapter 273. What? 60% sword intent? Didn't he only learn 50% sword intent? How come it has become 60% sword intent now? Perhaps this is his ace card? Hiding the sword intent level seems to be very hard to do. How did he do it? Perhaps it would be hard to see sword intent in other places. But in the competitions of the hidden dragon rank, there were already more than 20 young warriors who had learned the sword intent, which was more than any of the previous years. Among them, Li Daoxian was the most outstanding one, and he was currently at 60% sword intent. Tang Xiaoshan was at entry level, and Yi Chen was at 50% sword intent, which made him ranked second. However, now that he had revealed his 60% sword intent, Yi Chen's understanding of the sword intent was not any weaker than Li Daoxian. Plus, Yi Chen's sword art was so powerful, which made him even more powerful. More importantly, could the sword intent level be hidden that easily? It was understandable that Yi Chen did not reveal his sword intent before, since most of the sword artists could do it. But to hide the sword intent from 50% to 50% was 10 times more difficult, because the sword intent was very mysterious and hard to distinguish. The so-called 40 to 50% was just a rough estimate. Normally, there were only 3 levels of the sword intent, which were divided into entry level, and completion. Dividing it into levels was completely out of necessity, since the sword intent was so hard to learn, and every little bit of improvement would be extremely valuable. After a long time, the sword artists who had learned the sword intent had thought of dividing the sword intent into levels. If hiding the 50% sword intent was 10 times more difficult, then hiding the 60% sword intent would be even more difficult. The more powerful the sword intent was, the harder it would be to hide. People who could easily hide the sword intent were definitely those sword artists who were very good at using the sword intent. They would be able to beat another sword artist with the same sword intent. Thinking up to here, everyone was shocked. Could it be that Yi Chen's mastery of the sword intent was even better than Li Daoxuan's? It is not possible. Li Daoxian had reached the 60% sword intent half a year ago. With his talent in the sword art, he would not lose to anyone in the way of using the sword intent. Everyone found it hard to believe. As soon as the 60% sword intent burst out, Yi Chen felt that his sword aura had increased crazily. For a sword artist, the sword intent wasn't just a one-sided amplification. It could increase the sword artist's attacking power, make up for the flaws in his sword art, and push his sword art to another level. Therefore, the sword intent wasn't just a matter of attacking power. It could also increase the sword artist's overall power to another level. Meanwhile, the improvement of the sword intent level would have a greater and greater effect on the comprehensive power. If the entry level of sword intent was a barrier, then every level after that would be a barrier. Therefore, Yi Chen with 50% sword intent and Yi Chen with 60% sword intent were not on the same level at all. They were on two completely different levels. Pu. The illusory sword light flashed, and the heads of the dragon-shaped energy streams were chopped off one after another, bursting into pieces. Amazing, he actually concealed a level of sword intent. Yi Chen's sword intent was too powerful. Tuo Baku had just launched his attack when he realized that something was wrong. The sword intent that spread out from Yi Chen's body had made his hair stand on end. His fist aura had been blocked, as if it had been cut by countless invisible sharp blades. Savage tyrant body, Tuo Baku yelled. That aggressive Zhenqi had been hidden to the extreme, sticking to the surface of his skin like a thin layer of light film. It was dark blue in color. Pushing his defense to its limit, Tuo Baku's eyes were wide open, shining brightly. He threw out an even more powerful punch towards Yi Chen. The dragon-shaped chi showed its fangs and claws. Break! Yi Chen waved out a sword attack, and the whole space seemed to have been cracked open. The dragon-shaped chi had been sliced apart, and could not do anything. Then, the sword chi was like lightning, landing on Tuo Baku's body within a second. Chin! Burning sparks shot into the sky like fireworks. Tuo Baku's feet were blown into the air by that sword attack that contained 60% sword intent. His whole body landed on the surface of the dark blue light wall. Right then, the sword chi had still not disappeared completely, continuing to press on. No, my savage tyrant body will not be able to hold on for much longer. Tuo Baku was shocked. The dark blue light layer on his chest had started to crack, which could not be repaired at all. It was the first time that he had felt what it meant to be unstoppable. All of the muscles in his body started to twist. A wild light suddenly flashed through Tuo Baku's eyes. His right arm that had expanded to twice its original size bent and pulled back, punching onto the sword chi. Crack! The sword chi had been shattered, and Tuo Baku's right fist was covered in blood. Dragon World! The blood had been shattered by his fist power. Tuo Baku's left hand hit on the light wall, and with the huge pushing force, he shot out a horrifying dragon-shaped chi. The dragon-shaped chi roared into the sky, its massive head seeming to be able to devour a small house. The air around it was like a flood of water under the huge pressure, bringing up huge waves, allowing the dragon-shaped chi to travel around freely. The sharp intent had all gathered and merged into the Star Scar sword. Yi Chen stepped on the air, his body flashing. The next second, a long and sharp sword light flashed through the belly of that dragon-shaped chi, cutting it in half. Tuo Baku, who was behind it, had been blown away with his hands crossed in front of his chest. He did not follow up with another attack. Yi Chen was still in the air, putting his longsword back into its scabbard. He lightly landed on the platform, his blue robe dancing in the wind. Bang! Tuo Baku had also landed, but he had been cut into the ground. The platform under his feet was full of cracks, looking like spider webs. Even my most powerful ace attack could not do anything to you. I have lost. Wiping away the blood on the corner of his mouth, Tuo Baku chuckled, but he did not look like he was going to die. Yi Chen said, with only 60% sword intent, it would be hard for me to kill you. Tuo Baku's defense was unimaginable. Normal top-rank Earth Realm defense martial arts would not have this kind of effect. This was at least one of the top-rank Earth Realm defense martial arts. Besides that, Tuobaku's body was extremely compatible with this martial art. His 11th realm defense would not be any weaker than other people's 12th realm. Compared to my defense, my attacking power is indeed a bit weak. Tuobaku knew his weakness, which was why he had decided to give up. Otherwise, it would not be as simple as a light wound. The dragon-shaped shadow jumped out, devouring Tuobaku's dragon fountain chi. Soon Yi Chen's dragon-shaped shadow had reached beyond 80 meters, reaching 81 meters. It was right behind Sikong Sheng and Yan Qihua, ranking third. This battle is not going to be easy. The leader of the Heartless Martial School frowned. Yi Chen's 60% sword intent had appeared out of nowhere, which had made him lose confidence in Li Daoxian. Although there seemed to be a 10% difference between 50% sword intent and 60% sword intent, the gap was extremely obvious. Right now, Yi Chen's understanding of the sword intent was the same as Li Daoxuan's. So what they were going to compete on was their cultivation of sword arts. A core master of the Heartless Martial School said, "Leader, don't worry. Daoxuan's Heartless Sword Arts and the Heartless Sword Intent complement each other, which is way more powerful than a simple 60% sword intent." The leader of the Heartless Martial School nodded. Without this advantage, Daoxuan's chance of winning would not be more than 30%. Right now he only has 50% chance of winning. 60% sword intent. It is indeed unexpected. I thought he would stop at the 5th or 6th place. It seems like he could still go up 1 or 2 places. Yan Qihua's eyebrows flicked, an interested look appearing in his eyes. Ling Yun, who was not far away, sneered. Right now he thought only Yan Qihua could compete with him for the 2nd place. However, Yi Chen, who had revealed his 60% sword intent, had already made him feel the pressure. After battling with Sikong Sheng, he had revealed his biggest ace attack, and the others had more or less hidden ace attacks. So he had to be careful. Damn it. When these two were battling with me, they did not even use their full power. Mo Yin had suffered a huge blow, his fists tightened. Right then the audience had already started to discuss. It is indeed Yi Chen who has the upper hand after all. Even Tuobaku had lost to him. Among the top 10 new stars, Yi Chen definitely deserves to be the number 1. Although Tuobaku is powerful, he had still lost to Yi Chen, and could only be ranked number 2. Right now Yi Chen had beaten 3 top young warriors, Bing Ling, Mo Yen and Tuobaku. Without any surprises, Gu Yuan would not be able to compete with him as well. Besides these 4, his next opponents would be Sikong Sheng, Yan Qihua, Li Daoxian, Lin Yun and Morong Qingcheng. I wonder if he could continue to win all the battles. Yi Chen's dark horse status had shocked a lot of people. Since the beginning of the elimination competitions, he had not lost a single battle. No one knew how much power he had hidden, or how many ace attacks he had. All they knew was that each time he encountered a powerful opponent, he would reveal a bit of his real power, which was undoubtedly horrifying. The next battle would be Yan Qihua against Gu Yuan. Gu Yuan, who had the Stone King body protective fist art, was very powerful. Unfortunately, she was facing the number 1 blade artist Yan Qihua. Yan Qihua's blade aura was extremely aggressive. With only 2 blade attacks, he had broken through his opponent's protective Zhenqi layer. That overwhelming advantage had made a lot of people frown. Among the young generation, perhaps only Sikong Sheng had the power to beat him. Whether or not Lin Yun could compete with him was still unknown. The 27th battle, Sikong Sheng against Bing Ling. The battle continued quickly, and Sikong Sheng got on the stage again. Bing Ling bit on her teeth. It was not her style to give up without a battle. Without any hesitation, she pushed all of her Zhenqi and gathered it on her right arm, performing one of the ace attacks of the Icebreak Fist art, Ice Crystal Fist. Sikong Sheng stood where he was without moving, waiting for Bing Ling's attack. Boom! The Ice Crystal Fist had been prepared. Bing Ling's speed had been pushed to its limit as she threw out a punch. Forming a fist with his left hand, Sikong Sheng threw out a punch as well. The sky was filled with ice shards. Under Sikong Sheng's Sky Tyrant Fist art, the Ice Crystal Fist had been shattered. The closer the dragon-shaped shadow got to 90 meters, the slower it grew. After devouring Bingling's dragon fountain qi, it had only made Xikong Sheng's dragon-shaped shadow grow to 24 meters, only 3 feet away from 90 meters. The 20th battle, Lin Yun against Morong Qingcheng. Although there had been 9 battles between the top young warriors, there were only 3 that could be considered as the most important ones. One was Yan Qihua against Li Daoxian, one was Xikong Sheng against Lin Yun, and the last one would be the battle right in front of them, Morong Qingcheng against Lin Yun. Morong Qingcheng was just like Yi Chun. She had not been defeated yet. The Sky Demon great art that she had trained had made most of the people feel helpless. Her defense was the shapeless Sky Demon power field, which was her territory. Her attacking methods were the Sky Demon power field and the Sky Demon palm print. With the combination of the two, even someone as powerful as Bing Ling would not be able to get close to her, and could only be attacked. And Lin Yun's power was not to be underestimated either. When he was battling with Xikong Sheng, he had revealed his ace attack, which could kill any rank 6 tyrant beasts within a second. His power was definitely horrifying, and he had the power to compete for the top 3. In everyone's mind, his power was even more powerful than Morong Qingcheng. The battle between the two had attracted a lot of attention. Chapter 274. Yi Chun had calculated countless times in his mind, and eventually had to shake his head. Between Morong Qingcheng and Lin Yun, both of them would have a chance to win. However, it was hard to predict who would win. It was not because the two were equally powerful, but the biggest problem was Morong Qingcheng's Sky Demon Great Art. As everyone knew, the Sky Flying Devil Martial School's Sky Devil Great Art was a very powerful and strange martial art. It didn't have any protective Jin Qi, and its defensive method was the Sky Devil Power Field. The Sky Devil Power Field was invisible and intangible, and it needed to be driven by the Sky Devil Jin Qi. Once the Sky Devil Power Field protected the body, it would be very difficult to break through it, which made it difficult for normal attacks to work, and the opponent often couldn't get close to it. If it were another opponent, Morong Qingcheng would have a very high chance of winning. However, her opponent Lin Yun was just as powerful as her. His powerful attacking power could kill any rank 6 tyrant beast within a second, which had been proven during the battle with Xikong Sheng. Therefore, even with Yi Chen's extremely sharp eyes, he could not tell who would have a higher chance of winning. He would only know after a battle. On the battling platform, Morong Qingcheng, who was wearing purple robes, arrived in the air. Standing in front of her was Lin Yun, who was holding a black iron spear with burning qi. Lin Yun grinned and said, "Qingcheng, it has been 3 years since we last fought. Your power has indeed surprised me. In my opinion, you definitely have the power to be ranked 5th or even 4th. However, if you want to be in the top 3, you are still 1 level away." Lin Yun's meaning was very clear. Although he had lost to Xikong Sheng, but besides Xikong Sheng, only Yin Qihua could threaten him. And Morong Qingcheng's power was probably below the top 3. Within the top 5, she would not be able to win against him. He just did not want to say it out loud. Morong Qingcheng said lightly, "Oh yeah? Why do I feel like I can win against you?" "Hehe, asking you to give up is indeed too much. How about this? Within 10 attacks, if you can get the upper hand, I will give up automatically." Lin Yun forced a laugh. He did not know if Morong Qingcheng did not understand him, or if she was just irritated. 10 moves fine. Morong Qingcheng did not speak anymore. Instead, she secretly activated her Heavenly Devil innate qi, forming a circle of Heavenly Devil force field in an area of 30 feet around her. Heavenly Fire Force Spears. Without using his ace attacks, Lin Yun had only used normal ace attacks to fight against Morong Qingcheng. No matter whether he wanted to admit it or not, he did not think that Morong Qingcheng would be able to win against him. Dark red flames erupted, and the air boiled like water. Immediately after, a spiral of flames spread out and rushed towards Morong Qingcheng, who was dozens of meters away. Pop! The space around Morong Qingcheng shook for a moment, and the airflow surged. Heavenly Devil Palm Annihilate. Stretching out her 5 fingers, Morong Qingcheng sent out a palm print. Buzz! The flame pattern had been broken down, and Lin Yun's spear aura had been blocked. His speed had been reduced instantly. He did not panic at all as he stepped on the ground and cut into the incoming palm attack in a tricky and aggressive way. He continued to perform his Heavenly Fire 4 Spears Ace attack, which was even more aggressive than before. However, his iron spear had lost control after the third attack. Morong Qingcheng, who was not far away, made a grabbing gesture with her right hand, drawing his spear aura to the side and throwing a palm attack back at him. Lin Yun did not dare to underestimate Morong Qingcheng's palm power. His body shook once, and a flame shield appeared in front of him. The shield was thick and full of patterns. Sparks kept splashing out, and it looked like it was made of gold and stone. It was extremely heavy. Boom! The palm power that contained the Heavenly Devil power field had been blocked out by the flame shield, and Lin Yun was not injured at all. Heavenly Devil palm attack Sky Blame. Morong Qingcheng did not stop attacking as she threw out 4 palm attacks. The last one was the ace attack of the Heavenly Devil palm attack, Sky Blame. This attack was based on the reverse Heavenly Devil power field, creating a powerful repelling power that would blow away the locked objects in the space. Break! Lin Yun yelled as the flame around his body shot up into the sky. He waved his iron spear horizontally, battling against that powerful repelling power that was everywhere. He did not back out even one step. Lin Yun is indeed powerful. He could even fight against Morong Qingcheng's power field. Morong Qingcheng's martial art realm is 1 level lower, so it would be hard for her to perform the full power of the Sky Demon Great Art. Otherwise, Lin Yun would not be able to win this easily. The two were both testing each other. However, in everyone's eyes, Morong Qingcheng had obviously fallen into a disadvantage. Even her Sky Demon palm attack, which had always been successful, could not do anything to Lin Yun. Double Sky Blame. Morong Qingcheng put her left hand on the back of her right hand. The repelling power had been doubled, and it had landed on Lin Yun's body within a second. Finally, it had blown him dozens of meters away, leaving a dark red trail in the air. Lin Yun was still in the air. He did not wait to land on the ground before he shot back like a flying dragon. He threw out a spear attack towards Morong Qingcheng. It was indeed one of his ace attacks, the Skyfall attack. Once the spear attack had been thrown out, the sky and the ground had been shaken. Even the air around Morong Qingcheng had been dyed dark red, as if the sky had been burnt red. The Sky Demon power field could not block out the burning heat. Morong Qingcheng's body disappeared and reappeared in the sky within a second. She performed the Sky Demon catch with her left hand, while attacking with the Sky Demon palm attack with her right hand. 1 positive and 1 negative, the other negative, had combined together. It had somehow dissolved Lin Yun's deadly attack. Sky Demon Strangle. It was not over yet. She twisted her left hand as the Sky Demon power field twisted, shattering the protective Zhenqi layer outside of Lin Yun's body completely. 6 attacks had passed. Although Morong Qingcheng had not gotten the upper hand, Lin Yun had not gotten the upper hand either. He could not help but look bad. He could not care less about the idea of holding back. He stomped on the ground, bringing up a fire wave. His body shot up into the sky, stabbing towards Morong Qingcheng with his spear attack. It was still the Skyfall attack. This time, the Skyfall attack was extremely aggressive. The air had been pierced through by the spear attack, creating a black vacuum tunnel that extended all the way to Morong Qingcheng's Sky Demon power field. The Sky Demon power field was disrupted for a while, which had backfired on the Zhenqi inside Morong Qingcheng's body. She put her tongue on top of her chin, trying to control her boiling qi and blood. She threw out a palm attack to block that incoming spear light. Boom! Thunder exploded. Morong Qingcheng backed out a couple of steps. Lin Yun did not take the opportunity to attack. His opponent's extremely powerful palm attack had also made him lose control of his body. His body froze on the spot. Do you still want to keep fighting? Lin Yun held the spear with his right hand. The body of the spear was covered in a dark red flame, slowly accumulating at the tip. Landing on the ground, Morong Qingcheng put on the low-rank great weapon, the gold silk gloves. She said lightly, "Right now it has only been 7 attacks. It seems like you have not gotten the upper hand yet. Since that is the case, Then I will defeat you within 3 attacks. As he spoke, the zhenqi that Lin Yin had poured into the iron spear suddenly increased. A walnut-sized fireball accumulated at the tip of the spear. The fireball kept spinning, its color getting darker and darker. Dark flame kill. When Lin Yin got serious, he was undoubtedly extremely horrifying. Once he had activated his 11th level martial art, flames shot out of his body, attacking towards Morong Qingqing like a human-shaped meteor. That iron spear that had accumulated the fireball had already been stabbed out one step ahead of him. Its aura extremely aggressive. Morong Qingqing performed her Sky Demon catch and Sky Demon Great Palm print again. With the amplification of the gold silk gloves, her power field had been increased by more than 10%, blocking out Lin Yun's spear aura. Pop! The power field had been broken, and Lin Yun's spear aura had been slightly weakened. However, as Lin Yun poured in more zhenqi, a 12-meter-long spear light shot out, hitting onto Morong Qingqing's Sky Demon power field. The 9th attack. Lose! Lin Yun yelled, his iron spear cutting through the air like a hot knife through butter. Morong Qingqing's expression did not change. Suddenly she did something shocking. Her left hand's 5 fingers were bent, trying to grab onto Lin Yun's iron spear. Her right hand was hidden behind her back. Invisible sharp blades kept shooting out from her fingertips, hitting onto the surface of the platform, and making a swishing sound. Boom! The fireball on the iron spear exploded. The fire wave that reached into the sky covered both of them, creating a 30-meter-tall fire pillar. Lin Yun sneered. He knew the power of the fireball, which was a killing attack that was condensed with 20% of his zhenqi. Once it exploded, even people who were more powerful than him would be badly wounded, not to mention Morong Qingqing, who was slightly weaker than him. If there were no accidents, she would have been wounded already. However, what happened next had shocked him. Inside the fire pillar, Morong Qingqing's left hand was not damaged at all. In between her palm, there was a cluster of light black light moving. He was very familiar with that light. It was obviously the extremely condensed Sky Demon power field. The scattered Sky Demon power field was already very powerful, and it was unimaginable how powerful it would be when it was condensed. It was because of the condensed Sky Demon power field that Morong Qingqing was able to take on Lin Yun's ace attack without any damage. Otherwise, even with the protection of the gold silk gloves, her arm would have been broken by the explosive power. Right then, Lin Yun could not care about anything else. He knew that Morong Qingqing would definitely have a follow-up ace attack. If he did not make the first move, he would most likely lose. The center of his left palm was cracked open, and a stream of blood shot out, being wrapped up by the dark red flame. Lin Yun backed out quickly, throwing out his ace attack that he had used on Xikongsheng. Shoo! The blood turned into a bloody spear tip, shooting out at an unimaginable speed. Break! Morong Qingqing waved her left hand, and the condensed Sky Demon power field landed on the tip of the bloody spear. She did not wait for the bloody flame to burn, and her whole body shot out into the air. The right hand that was hidden behind her back reached out horizontally. She opened her 5 fingers, and a new Sky Demon power field was born, condensing into an invisible blade shape, attacking towards Lin Yun, who was backing out. Power field cut. The fire shield had been broken, and Lin Yun could only watch his protective zhenqi layer being cut open. The Sky Demon power field that contained both positive and negative power had landed on his body. Wah! Puking out a mouthful of blood, Lin Yun flipped a couple of times in the air before landing heavily on the light wall. Right then, the blood fire break had just exploded behind Morong Qingqing. The bloody flame burned the air, expanding rapidly in the wind. At the last moment, Morong Qingqing had turned the tables. Over at the audience seating, everyone could not believe their eyes. Lin Yin had lost to Morong Qingqing, who had just risen up in this year's Hidden Dragon rank. And he had lost under the condition that he had performed his ace attack. There was no mercy at all, which had really shocked them. Power field cut. I did not expect Qingqing's martial arts to have reached this level. The leader of the Sky Demon Martial School was in a great mood. The head disciple Mo Yen had already lost the chance to compete for the top 5, and the only hope was on Morong Qingcheng. She had not disappointed him at all. Chapter 275. Arrogant piece of trash. Yan Qihua sneered. Even he did not dare to underestimate Morong Qingcheng's power, so he had to treat it seriously. Otherwise, it would be possible for him to fail miserably. And the reason why Lin Yun had lost to Morong Qingcheng was because he had underestimated Morong Qingcheng's power. He did not take the battle seriously, and at the critical moment, it would be too hard to turn the tables. One wrong move, and everything would be wrong. If Lin Yun did not limit himself with 10 attacks, and put all of his focus into the battle, the result would still be unknown. Therefore, he had lost to himself. The leader of the Skyfall Martial School looked extremely pale. Lin Yun's failure was completely out of his expectation. He had already thought about it before the battle. With Lin Yun's power, even if he could not get the first place, he would definitely be able to get the second or third place. Among all of them, only Xikong Sheng and Yan Qihua would be his opponents. Leader, there is still a chance for the third place. There is no need to get so angry. The headmaster of the Skyfall Martial School let out a breath and tried to persuade him. I know. This battle will be a lesson for him. Do not underestimate the others. The ranking system of the Hidden Dragon rank was based on the points system, and it was quite common for people to have the same points. Therefore, Lin Yun still had the chance to get the third place, and maybe the second place as well. However, the chance was very low, since Yan Qihua's power was right there. Besides Xikong Sheng, no one would be able to beat him. Crawling up from the stage, Lin Yun puked out another mouthful of blood. It was not caused by his wounds but by his anger. He had never thought that he would be defeated by Morong Qingcheng one day. Thinking about what he had said to her before the battle, he could not think straight. He felt both humiliated and embarrassed. After devouring Lin Yun's dragon fountain qi, the dragon-shaped shadow on Morong Qingcheng's body had expanded to 23 meters, which was only below Xikong Sheng, Yan Qihua, and Yi Chun, ranking fourth. Without saying anything to hurt his opponent, Morong Qingcheng walked down the stage directly. The 64th round had ended, and the 2-hour break began. Inside the training room, the leader of the Skyfall Martial School said while healing Lin Yun, "You were too careless this battle. In the following battles, besides Yan Qihua, I want you to win all of them. Leader, don't worry. If I have the chance to run into Morong Qingcheng again, I will not be careless anymore." Lin Yun tightened his fists, blue veins popping out on his forehead. 2 hours later, the 65th round began. The first battle, Xikong Sheng against Gu Yuan. Xikong Sheng and Gu Yuan were not only disciples of the Floating Mountain Martial School, but they also had the king-level bloodline. One was the descendant of the Song King, while the other was the descendant of the Stone King. Unfortunately, the power gap between the two was way too huge. Otherwise, it would have been a crazy battle of king-level bloodline. Sister disciple, you go first. Xikong Sheng reached out his left hand. Gu Yuan nodded. She naturally knew about her head disciple's power, and it was definitely not something that she could handle. However, in the last 9 rounds of the Hidden Dragon rank competitions, no one had ever given up on their own. She did not want to break that rule. Plus, there were not many chances for her to exchange attacks with her head disciple. He would not be able to beat her with only one attack. He would at least show some respect to his fellow disciples. In front of Xikong Sheng, it would be a joke to talk about defense. Gu Yuan rarely took the initiative to attack, and each of her attacks was extremely powerful. Xikong Sheng kept his right hand behind his back, using only one hand to receive the attacks. He did not plan to beat his sister disciple right away, so he only used a small amount of power. After 30 attacks, Gu Yuan stopped her attack and stood still. Head disciple, thank you for teaching me. You have made great progress. I think you will be able to get into the top 3 in the next Hidden Dragon rank competitions. This year's Hidden Dragon rank competitions would be the most popular one. After this one, besides him, Yi Chun and Tua Baku, the others would all be over 24 years old. Plus, once he reached the astral reaching realm, the Hidden Dragon rank would only be an empty title. and he would not need to participate anymore. The dragon fountain chi would not be able to increase anymore, so he might as well give it to the disciples of the floating mountain martial school, and let them fight for the endless luck for the school. The seventh battle, Bing Ling against Lin Yun. Losing to Morong Qingcheng, Lin Yun looked even darker. Combined with the burning hot chi on his body, his whole body looked like a beast hiding in the fire. Kill. Once the battle started, Lin Yun threw out his most powerful attacks towards Bing Ling. Sky Fire 4 spears, Skyfall attack, and other ace attacks were performed continuously. The sky-covering flame almost lit up the entire battling platform. The flame shot up into the sky, spreading out in all directions. If it were someone else, they would have already lost under Lin Yun's crazy attacks. The good thing was that Bing Ling had trained the ice element Jin Qi, which could suppress the fire element Jin Qi under the same conditions. Although Lin Yun's martial arts were one level higher than hers, it would still be impossible for him to beat her easily. Looking from below the stage, the vast battling platform was covered in flames. In the center, there was a pile of ice and snow, which was protecting Bing Ling's body. Ice Crystal Fist. After taking a couple of heavy attacks from Lin Yun, Bing Ling used her most powerful ace attack. Her right forearm and fist were wrapped in ice crystals, attacking towards Lin Yun at 2 times the speed of sound. Dark Flame Kill. Lin Yun did not back out at all. A walnut-sized fireball had been accumulated on his iron spear, attacking towards Bing Ling's ace attack in a brutal manner. Boom! A burning mushroom cloud of flame rose up between the two, with ice shards splashing everywhere. The next second, blood leaked out from the corner of Bing Ling's mouth. She had lost to Lin Yun's ace attack. The 14th battle, Mo Yen against Morong Qingcheng. After Xikong Sheng and Gu Yuyin's match, another pair of disciples from the same martial school had appeared. Mo Yen had lost to Tuabaku, Yi Chun, and Li Daoxian one after another, which had made his popularity drop again and again. He was now out of the top 8. At the same time, he was feeling the same pressure as Lin Yun very bad. His handsome face looked a lot more hideous now. However, Morong Qingcheng and Mo Yen were completely different. She was one of the top 2 beauties of the Black Dragon Empire, one of the top 2 warriors of the young generation in the South Ridra region. Even though she had lost the battle, her popularity was still the same. Plus, she had won 2 battles so far, and she had even beaten Lin Yun in the second battle. It had made her popularity even higher than Yi Chen. Different experiences had created different mentality. Facing Morong Qingcheng again, Mo Yen had a very complicated expression on his face. Even he himself could not tell what was on his mind. Morong Qingcheng said, "Head disciple, do your best. All right, I will not go easy on you." Her calling him head disciple was very irritating to him, and her tone was not that good either. Morong Qingcheng shook her head in her mind, and did not say anything else. Activating his sky demon eyes, a dark red light shot out of Mo Yan's pupils. It was like a diamond, extremely condensed. He groaned with a low voice as both of his hands threw out a couple of attacks, performing his normal ace attack, the sky hand attack. This attack had a huge coverage, which was the best one to confuse people. Shoo! Palm shadows filled the air. Mo Yan's body flashed once before appearing on the right side of Morong Qingcheng. He pointed his finger at the weak spot of the sky demon power field. Morong Qingcheng and Mo Yan knew each other very well, so she would naturally not be confused by the sky hand attack. She waved her right hand in the air, and the sky demon power field spread out along her palm, deviating Mo Yan's finger light. Mysterious Spirit 7 Finger. His body jumped up from the ground as Mo Yan performed his ace attack again. Sky Demon Palm Attack, Destruction Sky Rebuke. Morong Qingcheng did not dare to waste any time. She performed the 2 ace attacks of the Sky Demon Palm Attack with both of her hands, one to break the attack, and the other to attack. Moving like a ghost, Mo Yan avoided Morong Qingcheng's Sky Demon Palm Attack. Within a second, he threw out a dark purple finger light. That finger light was like lightning, shooting through Morong Qingcheng's Sky Demon power field, aiming for the vital spot on her waist, which was impossible to defend against. Sky Demon Protective Strangulation. In that critical moment, Morong Qingqing used her body as the axis and spun in the air for 2 rounds. The sky demon power field outside her body twisted instantly, making that finger light fly past her body without hurting her at all. As she spun, Morong Qingqing did not stop attacking. She used the sky demon catch with her left hand and the sky demon palm attack with her right hand. Both attacks were thrown out together, forcing Mo Yin to temporarily dodge and lose the chance to gain the upper hand. Demon Spirit Killing Finger. His feet lightly touched the surface of the platform as Mo Yin performed his ace attack. This finger attack had broken through Tuobaku's defense, and its attacking power was no weaker than Li Daoxuan's. Unfortunately, the previous 3 opponents had made him suffer a lot. Tuobaku's defense was too high, and Yichen was able to see through all of his attacks. Li Daoxuan's sword attacks were unpredictable, and it would already be great if he could defend against them, not to mention attacking. Right then, he had used it on Morong Qingqing instead. Morong Qingqing of course would not dare to underestimate Mo Yin. In fact, she suspected that this year's Hidden Dragon rank competition might be Mo Yin's nemesis, since all of the opponents he had run into were not good for him. Otherwise, there might be a chance for him to make it into the top 5. But on the other hand, adapting to the environment and laughing until the end was the basic quality of a powerful warrior. Mo Yan's failure had proven that he did not have that quality yet. Pooh! Facing that finger attack, Morong Qingqing had to perform her Sky Demon Power Field technique to break through that finger light. She then waved her right hand, and a simple power field cut was shot out, cutting open Mo Yan's protective Jinqi layer and leaving a wound on his shoulder. This attack was Morong Qingqing holding back. However, Mo Yin did not care at all and continued to attack. The Demon Spirit Killing Finger attacked towards Morong Qingqing's vital spot. Morong Qingqing frowned. Her body disappeared as she threw back 2 power field cuts. At the same time, she performed her Sky Demon catch and caught Mo Yin, who was still trying to escape. They knew each other very well, so how could Morong Qingqing not know where he was going to escape to? Mo Yin did not look too good, but he did not attack again. The 21st battle, Yichen against Li Daoxian. It seemed like the head judge cared a lot about this battle. He stood up for the second time and announced the names of the 2 in person, his voice dragging out. Boom! The audience was shocked. They had waited so long for the battle between the top sword artists of the young generation. Without exaggerating, the battle between the 2 would basically decide who would be the #1 sword artist in the whole South Ridra region. Would it be Li Daoxian or Yichen? Li Daoxian was the head disciple of the Heartless Martial School with 60% sword intent. He had lost to the #1 blade artist Yin Qihua by half an attack. His power was obvious, and no one dared to underestimate him. Yichen was the new top young warrior, the leader of the top 10 new stars. He also had 60% sword intent. Added with his extremely powerful sword art and horrifying ability to see through weaknesses, he was highly respected. He was so popular that he was ranked in the top 4 of the top young warriors. The battle between the 2 top sword artists would be very exciting without even thinking about it. After all, sword artists were different from warriors. Their attacks were famous for their fast and accurate attacks. Even a little bit of carelessness could cause one to lose. There would not be a situation where the battle would last for a long time. Chapter 276. On the vast battling platform, 2 human figures were standing hundreds of meters away from each other. On the left side of the battling platform, Li Daoxian was wearing a blue robe, with a long and narrow great sword hanging from his waist. The sword scabbard was simple and ancient, with a few patterns on it. On the right side, Yichen was standing straight, wearing a blue robe as well. He also had a great sword hanging from his waist. The scabbard was carved with star patterns, its color clear and deep. Since you have the 60% sword intent, then I do not have to worry about the unfair advantage. The level of the sword intent had nothing to do with the unfair advantage. If it were a normal sword artist, Li Daoxian would never tell him that if he did not have the sword intent, then he would not use the sword intent either. It would be very stupid. However, Yi Chen was different. Yi Chen's sword art realm was extremely high, and almost no one could compete with him in the young generation. Li Daoxian did not want to win the competition with his sword intent, that was 10% higher than his opponent's, because he wanted to compete with Yi Chen's sword art realm. Right now, Yi Chen had also mastered the 60% sword intent. Therefore, the two were basically on the same level, and the competition would be the sword art realm. Yi Chen said, "That would be for the best. I also want to know how powerful my sword art realm is." Up until now, Yi Chen had not revealed all of his achievements in his sword art yet. It was either because his opponents were too weak and could not use it, or his opponents were different like Tuabaku. Therefore, if he did not find an equally powerful opponent, even Yi Chen himself would not be able to figure out his own sword art realm. Putting his right hand on the sword hilt, Li Daoxian stopped talking. His sharp eyes locked onto Yi Chen. Compared to the aggressive Yan Qihua, Yi Chen had given him more pressure. It was not that Yan Qihua was not as powerful as Yi Chen. In fact, even he could not see through Yan Qihua's power. However, Yan Qihua was a blade artist, which was different from a sword artist after all. However, Yi Chen was a sword artist who had mastered the 60% sword intent. This year's Hidden Dragon rank competitions only needed one number 1 sword artist. Kill. Flashing his body, Li Daoxian had shortened the distance between him and Yi Chen to only 10 meters. His sword had been taken out of its scabbard. A cold beam of light with a shocking sword intent was thrown out. The air was like water, without any ripples. There was only one person, and one sword left in the world. Yan Qihua, who was watching the battle, squeezed his eyes. This Yi Chen is indeed powerful. Facing him, Li Daoxian's sword art realm had improved even further. His spirit, qi, and soul were condensed, showing signs of merging into one. Yi Chen's expression did not change. His right hand grabbed onto the hilt of his star scar sword, which looked slow but was actually fast. He gently pulled it out. The dark-colored sword light was like a poisonous snake coming out of its cave, accurately pointing at the tip of Li Daoxian's sword. The emotionless poetic perspective seemed to have no effect on him at all. Chin. The sword tips, which were filled with Jinqi, clashed together. Sparks flew everywhere, looking extremely bright. Why do I feel a bit numb? On the audience seating, a clasping Yuan realm warrior had goosebumps all over his body as he said with a shaky voice. Me too. I heard that the battles between powerful sword artists would make the audience shiver. Today, I can see that it is indeed the case. There is a huge difference between sword artists and blade artists. Blade artists need to be bold and powerful, and their blade aura would make people's blood boil. However, sword artists are the exact opposite. They try their best to beat their opponents with the smallest cost. They are good at killing with one attack, which is the sublimation of their techniques. Therefore, they will leave a terrifying impression on people. It was an astral-reaching realm sword artist who was talking. While the audience was chatting, the battle on the battling platform had already reached its climax. Ding! 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 The sword light spread out, clashing with each other sharply. Kill! Dozens of sword attacks had been blocked by Yi Chen in a row. Li Daoxian took 3 steps back. During the process, he shook his wrist, and a sword light that could cut through metal appeared on his long sword. The sword light seemed to be invisible, as if it could ignore the distance between them. It pointed right at Yi Chen, who was not far away. Pop! The sword light was shattered. It was shattered by an invisible sword light. After shattering the sword light, Yi Chen extended his body, his blue robe dancing in the air. He threw out a sword attack. The shocking sword speed made the sword light not have enough time to flash. Together with it, there was also that sword art poetic perspective that could confuse people's senses. 60% sword intent lone peak kill. I cannot block it out. Li Daoxian was shocked. He closed his eyes and pushed his flying art to its limit, shooting out violently. No one knew why he had backed out so fast, because they could not feel the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill. Shoo! A stream of blood splashed out along the tip of the sword. Yi Chen stopped his steps. Indeed, The lone peak kill with 60% sword intent is still a bit too powerful. It would not work on other sword artists at the same level. Yi Chen looked at Li Daoxian, who was 10 meters away. Li Daoxian had escaped from the poetic perspective and stopped immediately. However, there was a light sword mark on his face. This is the sword art that you had performed before. Li Daoxuan's confusion had been solved. During the knockout competitions and the ranking competitions, Yi Chen would occasionally perform the poetic perspective of the lone peak kill. He had been wondering what kind of poetic perspective it was, but now he finally understood. Yi Chen did not answer, but asked instead. The battle between you and Yin Qihua was very interesting. Why don't you use all of your ace attacks on him? The lone peak kill had been exposed and dodged by his opponent, but Yi Chen was not worried at all. The power of the movement did not lie in the movement itself, but in the person using it. The same movement would have different effects in different hands. That sword attack before was just a test, to test Li Daoxuan's bottom line. Next time, the lone peak kill would be used at the most appropriate time. Sky kill. Needless to say, Li Daoxian naturally knew what to do. He performed the sword movement that had beaten Mo Yin, with only one sword attack. The sword light was hidden inside, spreading out everywhere. His whole body stepped on sharp steps, as if he had turned into a sharp sword, shooting towards Yi Chen. Break! Yi Chen's spirit, chi, and soul were extremely condensed. The star scar sword in his hand was waved at an unimaginable speed. Within a second, he had thrown out at least hundreds of sword attacks. The invisible sword light had formed a layer of invisible sword net in front of him. His extraordinary style had made the eyes of some of the female disciples brighten up. Pop! Pop! Just like Yi Chen had expected, Li Daoxuan's sky kill sword movement indeed contained two layers of power, one in the light and one in the dark. The sword attack in the light might look like a fake attack, but it could not be avoided. The sword attack in the dark would definitely kill with one attack, which was where Li Daoxuan's real body was. The two complemented each other, which was enough to kill warriors at the same level. Right now, the sword attack in the light had been broken, so Li Daoxuan's dark attack was coming right at Yi Chen's throat. Ting! A metal clashing sound was heard. Li Daoxuan's sword had been blocked out. It was also a sword that had blocked him. The sword light kept spinning, piercing through the air and chasing back. It stuck close to Li Daoxuan's sword body, attacking towards his palm. Li Daoxian frowned. Yi Chen's toughness had made him feel like he did not have enough power for the first time. When Yi Chen was breaking his attack, he did not release his lone peak kill poetic perspective. When his sword attack was broken halfway, the poetic perspective suddenly appeared, which slowed down his reaction speed by half a second. His sword speed had been slowed down, and that half a second was enough for Yi Chen to use his sword to block and fight back. Moving sword steps. His feet were like swords, and his body was like a ghost. Li Daoxuan's body moved away, avoiding Yi Chen's counterattack. Small sky-shattering clouds. Holding the sword with only one hand, Yi Chen's sword art style changed. Every movement contained thunder and lightning, and the wind and clouds started to gather. It contained an endless explosive power. It was like what he had thrown out was not a sword attack, but beams of lightning and clouds, not giving Li Daoxian any chance to breathe. Pooh! 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 The sword chi left cracks on the ground. Li Daoxian did not expect Yi Chen's style to change so quickly. It had completely messed up his own rhythm, and he kept performing his moving sword steps. Earth explosion sky shock. Finding out Li Daoxuan's pattern of dodging, Yi Chen suddenly stomped on the ground. He performed the secret martial art that he had gotten from the Bloody Butcher a long time ago. The Earth Explosion Sky Shock. Although the rank of the Earth Explosion Sky Shock was not that high, and it would not be able to cause any real damage to his opponent, but its supportive effect could not be underestimated. As his Zhen Qi poured into the ground, the place where Li Daoxian had landed cracked open like a spider web. Not good. Without a choice, Li Daoxian took a deep breath in the air, forcefully stopping his falling body. Then his Zhen Qi exploded, barely avoiding the attack range of the Earth Explosion Sky Shock. Shoo! There was no way that Yi Chen would let go of this opportunity. He performed his separating shadow flying art. His body flickered, and he quickly appeared in front of Li Daoxian, throwing out a sword attack. Li Daoxian used his sword to block out the attack, in an extremely uncomfortable position. He opened his left hand's 5 fingers, and a suction force appeared out of nowhere, trying to grab Yi Chen's body. Separate. All he managed to grab was Yi Chen's Zhenqi shadow. Under the twisting suction force, it was shattered into pieces. Boom! After losing the opportunity to attack, Li Daoxian could no longer block out Yi Chen's sword attack. Under a dark sword light, his whole body was blown away, and his Zhenqi layer had been shattered. With blood leaking out from the corner of his mouth, Li Daoxian looked extremely serious. While he was still in the air, he forcefully pushed his Zhenqi and performed the sword step. He changed his original flying route and avoided Yi Chen's next sword attack. Dozens of meters away, Li Daoxian tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and shot out with his long sword in his hand. This is my killing sword attack. If you can block it, you win. After throwing out the sword attack, the air became even calmer. The sword light attacked towards Yi Chen at a speed that was faster than the human eye could see. If it was only this, it would not be enough to be called Li Daoxian's killing attack. This sword attack seemed to have blocked out all the noises from under the stage. Indeed, this sword attack was called silence. It was one of the killing attacks of the heartless sword art. During the battle with Yan Qihua, Li Daoxian had used this killing attack to cut off a strand of Yan Qihua's hair. If it were not for the fact that he could not fully perform his silence attack, Yan Qihua might not be able to win against him. Because the two of them had been fighting at such a fast speed, there were very few people who had actually noticed that sword attack. There were less than 5, or even less people among the young generation. All the noise disappeared, and there was no trace left in the air. It was like the sword light was no longer a sword light, but a part of the air. What a good silence attack. It is even more perfect than when he was fighting against me. Yan Qihua was still a bit scared. Excluding the silence attack, Li Daoxian was still a bit weaker than him, so it would not be that hard for him to win. However, once the silence attack was used, even he could not react in time. He could only block and counterattack subconsciously. To win in the end, besides the achievement of his blade art realm, there was also a bit of luck. Otherwise, it would not be a strand of hair that was cut off, but an ear, or even his head. The leader of the Heartless Martial School had made up his mind. The combination of the Heartless Sword Intent and the Heartless Sword Art would be much more powerful than the Sword Intent and Sword Art. Combined with this silence attack, the situation was starting to look better. So this attack is called silence? What a vivid name. Yi Chen stood where he was without moving. He stretched his body. As for Li Daoxian being able to cut off a strand of Yan Qihua's hair, how could he not notice it? The reason why he had purposely suppressed his sword art realm was because he wanted to see the power of this attack and improve his own sword art realm. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.